Hello, I'm Reverend Dr. Swarup Baur. I'm a professor of theology at Bishop's College, Kolkata, India, and also the presbyter in charge of St. Andrew's Church under the Diocese of Calcutta, CNI. And it's been my privilege and honor to share a series of lectures on the Indian Christian Theology, which definitely I teach to my students back in India at Bishop's College. And I hope these series of lectures would be helpful and insightful for all those who would be looking forward to it. Thank you very much. The fourth lecture concerns Ecotheology, and this is one of the contextual theologies in India. Of course, we will start with a brief introduction of ecology and ecotheology done in different places, and then we will focus particularly on India. Ecology is a study of relationships, distribution, and abundance of organisms or groups of organisms in an environment. Human activities threaten to disturb this equilibrium, the balance, and the relationship between organisms of the planet. The term ecology or oikologia was originally coined by the German biologist Ernst Haeckel to describe the relationship between living organisms and their relationships. The increasing ecological problems we face today are not only a threat to the planet, but a threat to our very existence. Abuse of nature, exploitation of land and forests are continued by corporate companies at a rapid pace. Studies show in different parts of the world, and especially in India, 13 lakh hectares of land is deforested per year. This has led to the disruption of ecosystems, resulting in frequent floods, droughts, and global warming. Together with these, there is the pollution of air and water due to industrialization and steep rise in diseases and so on. All these call for a Christian response to such issues, and it is more urgent to address these issues now than ever. Global warming and climate change are related issues that raise serious concerns. Global warming refers to an average increase in Earth's temperature, which in turn causes changes in climatic patterns. A warmer Earth may lead to changes in rainfall patterns, a rise in sea level through the melting of polar ice, destruction of a wide range of flora and fauna, including humans. Our industrial productions and consumptions leading to CO2 emissions results in trapping of gases in the atmosphere, which ultimately lead to global warming and the resulting climate change. Climate change is defined in a NASA document as a long-term change in the average weather patterns over long periods, which define global climates. Now let us go into some of the ecotheological perspectives. Ecotheologians have drawn from various sources to do their theology, and over the years, ecotheology has become truly interdisciplinary. On the other hand, theologians might draw from Western traditional sources like Francis of Assisi or Maximus the Confessor, or on the other hand, might align with feminist thinkers or even political activists. While ecotheological concerns have ranged from personal and local to the global, from specific individual virtues and habits of frugality and practical wisdom, or temperance to pointing out the flaws in social and political structures, many approaches seem to be overwhelmed by the sheer challenge of climate change. For Christian ecotheologians, the Bible has remained one of the main sources for ecotheology. However, it has been very common in ecotheological discourses to point out that the roots of our environmental crisis lie in the Judeo-Christian tradition laid down in the Bible for humans to dominate the earth, as argued by the well-known article by Lynn White Jr. entitled "The Historical Roots of Our Ecological Crisis" in 1967. In effect, the Bible has been both misused and used in ecotheological discussions. One of the important approaches is to link ecotheology with ethics, and this is very prominent in the writings of Norman Habel in his edited book, Readings from the Perspective of the Earth. It begins by acknowledging the anthropocentric orientation of the Bible and the problem it poses from an ecological perspective. The duality of human versus nature, male versus female, heavenly versus earthly, have created grounds for superiority of humans over the entire planet, leading to ecological destruction. So, a new way of reading the Bible is proposed, influenced by liberationist and feminist readings. The important contributions of the book by Habel are the 6 principles of eco-justice, namely of intrinsic worth, interconnectedness, voice, purpose, mutual custodianship, and resistance. When we go into the Indian context, ecotheology, particularly in India, emerged in response to the ecological disintegration caused by various socio-economic and political factors. Traditional Christian theology in India did not address ecological concerns adequately. Therefore, there was a need to develop ecotheology from the standpoint of subaltern or marginalized earth communities in India, as well as from various other religious traditions. K.C. Abraham has been prominent in bringing together ecology, economics, and ecumenism, where the issue of unity of the churches and the people belonging to different denominations and wider ecumenism features. Also, he points out that in any ecological discussion, the perspective of justice should not be forgotten. Abraham calls out the church and people's movements to adequately respond to the ecological crisis. According to him, the problems of the poor are intertwined with the concerns of the environment. For Abraham, the rights of non-human creation are also important for ecological discourse, not only human rights. Another theologian, Felix Wilfred, a Roman Catholic theologian, on the other hand, speaks about prophetic ecotheology. This kind of theology will encourage people to raise their voices against climate injustice. He proposes interreligious ecology, which will try to imbue our approach to nature with a sense of sacredness. On the other hand, Paulos Mar Gregorius, the Orthodox theologian, stressed on the need for reflecting on the biblical doctrine of creation, basing on Eastern Church fathers like Gregory of Nyssa. Mar Gregorius develops an integral theology on the Orthodox Greek paradigm of perichoresis, which means intermingling of divine persons. This is a sacramental spiritual approach where everything becomes sacred through the integral connections among them, where God, human, and the rest of creation are all connected together. On the other hand, a paradigm of pneumatological cosmism, in other words, the unity of the cosmos held by the Spirit, can be found in Samuel Ryan, the Jesuit theologian with whom the earth is a theological and liturgical reality in the Spirit. Ecofeminist theologians have been gaining strength also recently. Gabriele Dietrich focuses on the link between women and environment in terms of the struggles of the fisherwomen and slum dwellers in India. Dietrich considers Sally McFaig's metaphor of God as mother, lover, and friend to be effective in bringing out God, earth, and human relationships. Aruna Jnanadasan, on the other hand, draws on the Indian traditions of Shakti, Annapurna, and Aranyani as symbols of power, nurture, and sustenance in the Indian traditions in our writings. Now, Vinod Wesley outlines some of the major ecotheological paradigms in India that is engaged upon. Wesley points out the need for an ecocentric or cosmocentric paradigm instead of an anthropocentric one. Ecotheology should be done to challenge the model of capitalist and neoliberal development paradigm of India. The task of ecotheology is to question the present scientific and technological explorations guided by the profit motive and to find alternative sustainable methods. Particularly in the Indian context, it is important to realize and assert that subaltern communities, especially Dalits, women, tribal, and children, are the most vulnerable to ecological disasters. It is very important to emphasize that eco-justice and social justice go hand in hand. We are called to reread and reinterpret the Bible with an ecological and earth perspective. Also, Wesley notes that being situated in a multi-religious context, eco-theological discussions can be strengthened by the necessity of inter-religious perspectives. Moreover, social movements have important lessons for us to learn regarding ecotheology and how we could contribute towards changing of social structures to favor an ecocentric perspective. So, in conclusion, we can say that ecotheology is a rapidly developing paradigm in India which seeks to respond to the ecological crisis, especially in an integral manner, involving social, political, and economic justice, which is relevant for not only India, but countries of the global south. Thank you.